Welcome to Future Focus, the Next Gen OD Canada podcast, your go-to source for insights and inspiration as you navigate your optometry journey.
Whether you're a student or a recent graduate in your first few years of practice, we're here to explore the topics that matter: career paths, job opportunities, board preparation, and more.
Each month, we'll bring you expert guests and practical tips to help you thrive in the world of optometry. So, let's shape the future of optometry together on Future Focus, the Next Gen OD Canada podcast.
Okay, so welcome back, everyone. We are fresh and ready for the spring weather and another episode of Future Focus. And we are here with Dr. Zach Turner, and we're going to be talking all about navigating life after graduation and navigating working in a group practice. This is exciting for us because I've worked in like a small type of a group practice. Alexa, I don't know about you.
I'm currently working in a group practice, but I think what's interesting about Zach's situation is it's like a ton of different clinics all under the same owner, correct?
Yeah, I guess. Hey guys, thanks for having me on here. Nice to be talking to you. But yeah, the group that I'm a part of is a organization with 7 different clinics, all sharing staff, EMR, records and management. So it's pretty big and it's got its unique challenges, but also its advantages as well.
So you're a fellow Winnipegger, which we were just chatting about. And can you tell us how it went after graduating, why you decided to not go back home, and your journey thus far, 3 years out after graduation?
Well, I graduated from the University of Waterloo and had spent a few years away from Winnipeg at that point. I knew it was a place that I could always return to and, a place I do still consider home. But I wanted to try something else first and experience a different way of living and a different type of setting for a practice. So I ended up in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, which checked off a few of the boxes for me. It's only one province over. It's not too far from Winnipeg. I'm still able to drive home for long weekends and holidays, which is great. But it's also just a smaller community, which is something that I was looking forward to, the opportunity to really just immerse myself in a small community, that way of life, and the practice that comes with it. So PA, for example, was just very underserved. We could still use more eye care in the area. So I knew it was going to be a good place to start my career.
And does it feel very different? So now you're in Saskatchewan. How different is it than being in Winnipeg? Just curious for me. I've never really been that much out of Ontario.
Well, you definitely have to make a point of visiting eventually.
Which one, Winnipeg or Saskatchewan?
Both.
Both, absolutely.
You need to collect a Starbucks mug from each one.
And I'll give you recommendations on where to visit no matter where you go. I'm biased to Winnipeg. I think it's an awesome city. It's slept on. It's got a lot of cool spots and arts and culture scene that just isn't very well known outside of Winnipeg, especially in GTA, where you guys tend to be very GTA centric. But definitely visit Winnipeg. If you go to Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, Regina, of course, a lot more known. I don't have as much experience with Regina, but I can say that Saskatoon is also just a very cool city with a lot going on. PA, a little bit different. We're about an hour and a half north of Saskatoon. There's a lot less going on. It's just a slower and quieter way of life. And I'd say that's the biggest difference between where I am right now and being in Winnipeg. I can drive 10 minutes from one end of the city to the other. The commute is pretty nice. I'm not going to lie. The people are great. The community is just so supportive. And that's something that I feel you get from a smaller center more than you would a larger city. So that's been a real perk and something that I've been fortunate to experience.
That's been a pretty consistent comment from many ODs that we've spoken to who practice in more smaller towns, rural places, that it's just a slower life. But nicer people. Everyone knows each other, it feels safe, it feels friendly. And so we've done other podcasts and spoken to people about the advantages of working in an area like that. But now we want to learn a bit more about, working in that larger practice setting. So, in your opinion, what initially attracted you to a larger group practice? And what do you think are some of the advantages of being part of a larger network, both in a clinical standpoint and maybe even a business standpoint?
To be honest, what attracted me to this opportunity initially wasn't necessarily the fact that it was part of such a big network. I was able to start at a clinic that was brand new. They built it and opened it the year I graduated. And so I've been there from the very beginning. And being involved in that experience has just been so valuable for me from both a clinical standpoint and a business standpoint, because I've been able to just take on a lot of the management roles, do a lot of just training and work with the staff to get to a point where we're doing well, providing the best care possible. And as a result, I've been able to enjoy some of those advantages that you mentioned are there while being part of such a large organization. What's been really great is being able to rely on the experience and knowledge that some of my colleagues have had long before that I've entered into my profession. They've seen a lot of patients in their day. And so if I'm ever unsure about something clinically or need some advice, they've been great to turn to, and they've really helped me out and given some advice as needed. I've been able to learn some of the business side of things as well. The owners have acted as mentors to some degree and taught me about a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, which has been very good. Another unique aspect about the opportunity that I've found myself in is this venture was a partnership between two separate groups. So there's that larger 7 clinic organization that we're officially under the umbrella of, but they have partnered with another OD from a smaller community in Saskatchewan, kind of gone half and half to open the clinic up where I am right now. So those two have some overlap in priorities like patient centered care and providing a good experience for everybody who walks through the door. But there might be some different business philosophies that they've had to compromise with or find a good way to form some form of hybrid operations here for us. And that's been really interesting as well, just getting to see how different people operate their clinics differently and how, a lot of different things can work.
I wanted to just add a little question to that. Like, I'm curious, especially as a new grad entering like a larger group practice, one of the goals, obviously, when you have multiple locations is to try and keep that same feeling, that same patient experience with every clinic. But when you have so many doctors, we're all trained the same, but we all practice differently. So, is there any expectation of how you should practice so that it's consistent with how the other doctors are practicing across clinics? Is there just full autonomy for you to do kind of like whatever you choose, or are there guidelines, anything like that that comes with working in a group setting?
It's a great question. As far as patient care goes, I do feel like I have full autonomy to handle that the way that I want to. The priority is on making sure that the patient has the best care possible and a really good experience. And I think that's something that, most people would just want in general. So that's something that's really reinforced by the ownership group. We do have regular cross company meetings where this type of thing is, again, just brought up and encouraged as well. So we do a weekly huddle virtually every Friday morning before practice starts. And this is how, everybody from staff to associates to owners gets on the same page about operations, day to day stuff, and larger picture stuff as well. So there's a lot of autonomy, again, for the patient care stuff, but they do really enforce just wanting to make sure we're providing that good experience everywhere.
How many optometrists work at your clinic that you're at right now?
Just the individual location where I spend my time.
Yeah.
I'm the only guy there one day through Friday, and
Okay.
there's another optometrist there just on Fridays with me.
Okay, so you're basically running the show.
I'm doing my best.
Yeah, yeah. So when you first graduated, so it was basically a cold start when you started working there, correct?
Yeah,
So all the patients that have come through that door have seen you essentially.
most of them, yeah. So one of the owners, again, who's there with me on Fridays, does see some patients, but a high percentage.
Yeah, but you've established a patient following, I'm assuming,
Correct. Yeah.
right? Which is also nice.
Very nice. We just passed our 2-year mark in December, actually. So I've started to see a lot more returning patients, which is great because I've got that established rapport and relationship with them, but helps fill the schedule too, instead of relying on solely new patients. So the slow days are not as slow as they used to be.
Yeah, yeah. Can I ask if you were given a minimum at the beginning, or has your pay structure changed, if you're allowed to share?
So the way I had arranged it with the partners at the start was a guaranteed annual minimum for the first year, just as a baseline where I could be comfortable moving to a new community with a cold start and no patient base and know that I was going to be taken care of. And then since then, it's gone to just, fairly standard contract about general percentage of revenue earned.
Nice.
And did you find in that negotiating phase that because you were entering a practice that's in a more small town, rural community, that that's generally accepted more often, like providing an annual minimum or daily minimum instead of just a percentage of gross?
I haven't heard of that being very common. Yeah, I didn't see that coming from any other locations as well. So,
I feel like that's a good point for new grads to know and students that listen that, when you're negotiating, like add those things. You were willing to move provinces, move into a smaller town. You're starting with 0 patients. You have no idea what your schedule is going to be like. So that gives you more reason to negotiate for some sort of definite pay, right? So that it will help you feel like, okay, rent and my groceries and like living is at least possible while you're building up that patient base. So that's great that you did that.
absolutely, that guarantee is certainly something that made me a lot more comfortable with this transition. But from what I understand as well, it's something that they wanted to provide just for some stability, right? They don't want somebody to come into a new situation where they're not going to be happy and they're not going to be able to pay their bills. And then they're going back to the hiring process again, which means that patients aren't being seen, revenue isn't being generated, and that turnover is just not good for anybody. So both sides, I think, experienced a win on this.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you feel like you were at any point thinking about going into like a corporate setting or another setting other than private practice when you were graduating? And like, what advice would you have for new grads who are deciding between corporate versus independent?
It's not something I considered. I know it's a business model that does work for a lot of different people. Personally, I prioritize the autonomy that you get from working in a private practice relative to the cookie cutter standards that are set out for you at a more corporate setting. I also am just an aspiring business owner. I hope one day to own my own practice. And so I figured this is going to be a better way to experience that instead of not really seeing any of the behind the scenes management aspects of things. I think, if you're just wanting to show up, at 8, leave at 5, punch in, punch out, and not worry about any of the extra stuff that you could do very well in a corporate setting. And a lot of people, that's just really conducive to their lifestyle and their wants. So that's why I had made that decision. No.
Was partnership ever something, or is partnership something that's on the table? Was it discussed when you signed your contract? And is that something you're interested in?
Absolutely. It's been discussed before I signed this contract that this is a potential if the fit is good for me personally in the community and professionally within the group there and the way the personalities work. And it's something that we continue to talk about as well. I have had the fortune of just growing a good relationship with the doctors that I work for. So it's something we'll continue to discuss and see what happens when the time comes that I'm ready for a move like that.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then, Zach, to wrap it up, because our audience is mainly students that are about to graduate very soon or new grads that are looking for job opportunities. If you look back through your journey to where you are now, what's one piece of advice you'd give those listeners right after finishing optometry school when they're trying to navigate, where to practice?
Just one, hey?
I mean, we could go all night, but I think the listeners, pause the podcast and go to bed at some point.
No, I know. There's just so much learning that's being done in those first few years of practice that there's probably no shortage of advice I could give my younger self. But I would say that, it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day things of practice. Of course, you want to make sure you're taking care of your patients in the best way possible. And those personal interactions are so important. But it's also important to look past what's within the walls of your clinic and form relationships with just everybody you encounter in this business. So this includes other doctors, and attending these regional conferences have been great just for networking and professional growth for me. Making the time to speak to all the reps that walk through your office, such as frame, therapeutics, and contact lens reps. They're the ones with their ear to the ground in this industry, and they're always going to know the gossip and what's going on around the area before anybody else, just because they do step foot into every single practice in your region. Something I really had the opportunity to enjoy and take part of was even some conferences put on by the OSI group, which was an opportunity I had to be put in the same room as a lot of private practice and like-minded practitioners and business owners and just learn so much from. So everybody has had different experiences and you can learn something from everybody. And that's just what's allowed me to continue to grow in my profession, my career.
I think everything you said is so true. I think like not getting caught up in the day to day and, you'll look back and not remember that one patient you were woken up thinking about.
Exactly.
But, right. Were you at the OSI conference in Niagara? No.
No, I missed that one. I was at the two prior ones, so Vancouver and Halifax, and then I wasn't able to attend this last one.
Okay, so we were talking about this on our last podcast about how it was a priority for the doctor we were interviewing when she graduated to be at a clinic that had other ODs while she was working, and she feels like that is an element of comfort for her. How were you being just like thrown into, like, of course you can message other doctors, but there's not someone next door for you to ask your questions to. It's a big shift.
I got really lucky the way this worked out. So while I had signed up to be a part of this cold start practice in Prince Albert, there was some delays with construction, so I wasn't able to move here right away. And so I had a 6-month transition period where I was working alongside my colleagues in Saskatoon, where I was never the only optometrist in the office. So I had that direct support right beside me, which helped me gain confidence to get my feet wet before I was in a position where I was the guy and the only one around. So that was very good for my development professionally. We also have on top of, doctor group chats where of course I could message my coworkers and colleagues, but we have a a live Teams feed going all day long through all the offices. And so if there was something that was a little bit more urgent or maybe better communicated face to face, I do have that open and available to me on a daily basis as well.
Oh, that's
That's so
great.
nice.
That's a
Yeah.
great idea. Yeah. Because that's what I assumed when, we read that you work in a large group practice. I was imagining like 14 ODs running around like 14 exams.
Yeah.
That's what I was imagining. But yeah, when you're in that setting by yourself, it doesn't necessarily feel like a group practice, right? It feels like a
Right.
solo practice. But the
Absolutely.
fact that you guys have that live communication, you can just immediately message and be like, hey, I need someone to just get on the phone with me just to chat about this patient. Yeah, then you have all the support right there.
Hey, can you actually see through my lens? What is this?
I will say too, I feel like I used my colleagues a lot more at the start, just when I was maybe a little bit more anxious about the little things, but it doesn't take long for you to really feel more comfortable and confident and understand that you really do have the training, the knowledge base, and the ability to do your job and to do it well. So I know it's a little bit nerve-wracking for the new grads out there, but we'll get there.
We'll get there. Like you said, everyone's journey is different, but honestly, when it comes to optometrists, all of our journeys still have that level of overlap. And so that lack of confidence when we all get out, we've all had it. I don't think there's a single person who's like, I can handle everything right when they graduate out of fourth year. So, but that's the nice thing about optometry, especially in primary care. A lot of it in the beginning is repetitive. So with that repetition, you gain that confidence in knowing kind of what you're doing with each exam that kind of goes by.
Yeah. I feel like it probably it takes around like 6 months to feel like more confident. And then like I think it takes probably about a couple years to feel like good in like your style of practice, like how you and I'm still like learning that. And I think, even 5 years, I still feel like I'm coming into my groove of things.
It's a career of lifelong learning.
For sure. Do you have any final words? Yeah. Anything you want to share?
Thanks for having me on here, guys. This is really great getting to talk to you guys, and hopefully, some people take some good things out of this.
Yeah, I think they will for sure. I think the more content that's been out there and the more interviews that have been out there of, us and other great ODs interviewing ODs who are not doing maybe the normal career trajectory that students think that they should have coming outside of school. Just all this stuff exposes them to so many things. Even for me, like I didn't speak to a single OD about rural practice, group practice, OD, MD practice. Like I didn't talk to any OD about those options when I graduated back in 2019. I automatically just assumed that the corporate setting was the normal expected setting. Like that's just what I grew up around. And I just thought that that was it. So I think the fact that you're just sharing your experience is already getting hopefully some other students curious to see what else is out there and to even just try something. Because once you don't know if you're going to fall in love with it until you try it.
Yeah. Is there any place that someone can contact you, your email, or anything you want to leave if they have questions?
For sure. Best way to reach out to me is through my email. That is zturner, ZTURNER at yxevision.ca.
Amazing.
Oh, thank you so much, Zach. And we wish you the best of luck with the rest of your OD journey. And hopefully we'll see you around someday once I go to Saskatchewan to get my Starbucks mug.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Future Focus, the Next Gen OD Canada podcast.
You can find us on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. For episode summaries and more resources, visit us at icarebusiness.ca.
Be sure to follow Next Gen OD on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for updates, news, and more insights into the world of optometry. Don't forget to check out the show notes at icarebusiness.ca. Until next time, stay focused on your future.